Thank you, Shruti. Thank you for that. Okay.
And I'll
All
take
right. Thank you. Thank you. So first and foremost, Mr. Akash, how did it feel getting to the summit of Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world?
It felt great, actually. We started at 9 o'clock. We reached the summit at 7 a.m., 7:57 a.m. to be exact. And there were a lot of people ahead of us. You know, Everest is known for its traffic jams, you know. This year, there were record number of permits issued, 408. So if there are 408 climbers, there'll be 408 Sherpas at least, because there's 1-to-1 Sherpa ratio for the summit day. So you can imagine there are 800 people, and this year the weather was extremely bad, so we didn't have very long summit windows. So people summited only on 3 days: May 11th, May 12th, and May 23rd. That's it. There were no summits on other days. So usually, if you have more summit days, then people spread out. But when you have only 3 summit days, we had over 150 people ahead of us and about 50 to 75 people behind us. So you can imagine the amount of traffic. So what was going on in my mind? I was not enjoying the summit at the moment. I should have, but I was worried about frostbite and cold injuries, because so much traffic, you know, people move very slowly, and the Everest is the way to the summit is very narrow and single file only. So people have to go and come back the same way. So we were worried about frostbites and running out of oxygen. So I mean, we did take pictures and videos and all of that, but in the back of our head, we were just worried about spending the least amount of time on the summit and going down as soon as possible without stopping.
Of course, health is always a priority. I mean, that's understandable. It was we've been informed that, you know, the average time it takes for anyone to reach the summit is between 65 to 70 days or so. However, you managed to do your expedition in significant less amount of time. I believe 45 days or so.
Yeah, that is true. And that is because we use this system called Hypoxico at home. Somebody did a news article, so I'll probably forward a link to you and you can share. But it's basically a tent and a big machine that you sleep with. And the big machine, the whole purpose is to suck out all the oxygen, or rather push more nitrogen in. So it lowers the relative proportion of oxygen in the environment inside the tent. And you sleep in that tent every night for maybe 2 months, or or shorter, depending on what mountain you're climbing. But for Everest, I did it for 2 months, and after 2 months, your red blood cells in your body, the level goes up significantly. And red blood cells are mainly important for absorbing all the oxygen, right? So if you have more RBCs, with every breath, you're taking in more oxygen, and it gets a slightly bit easier. So that's why we were able to cut the trip in half.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So you kind of mentioned this in the beginning while you were introducing yourself, how you decided to climb these different all 7 mountains, you know, across the globe for Una. But I just wanted to ask you, you know, for most people, you know, when they try to do something different, you know, sometimes most of them they just go to the beach, or, you know, hang out with family and friends, you know, go to different eateries and stuff like that. However, for your case, you went on the other side of the spectrum and decided to, hey, I wanted to climb mountains, essentially, you know, all over the globe for Una. You know, so my question to you is, how did this idea come into your mind? Were there any other ideas that you had prior to this that you wanted to get into, or was this straight from the beginning? This is what you wanted.
Yeah, no, I didn't necessarily look for ideas, climbing or going to the beach or whatever. But growing up in India, I grew up significantly. I grew up a significant part of my life in India. So I always saw mountains next to me, from Dehradun, Mussoorie, and Garhwal. So I always had that desire to go and do something in the mountains. But the problem is, in India, you don't have the logistics and infrastructure to do stuff like that. So when we came here, uh, there's Mount Rainier in Seattle, which is considered pretty easy. It's not super technical and super difficult. So there was a training course, a free training course being offered in 2015. So I signed up for that just to check out
Just okay.
what snow camping is like and what
Mhm.
walking on the mountain is like. So I liked it so much that the next year I signed up for a serious training in Alaska for 12 days. That was very good. And I think that set me up for all of these difficult expeditions that I've been on. So things like Mount Denali in Alaska, that's actually considered more difficult than Mount Everest, even though it's
Wow.
not the highest. Yeah. So I did that the next year. Then we did Kilimanjaro and some of these smaller mountains, and I felt I was ready for something like Mount Everest, and it all worked out fine.
So there was no other interest or hobby that you had in mind that you wanted to get into, like scuba diving or anything else of that sort? Nothing like that. It was just straight up,
No,
I want to climb
I,
mountains.
I I think about those things now, maybe,
Okay,
but starting out, mountains was my thing.
gotcha.
I wanted to at least try and see what it was like. And when I tried Mount Rainier in Seattle in 2015, I liked it so much that I said, okay, I'm going to continue this path. And there's this challenge called the Seven Summits, so I'll try to complete and finish that.
Outstanding, outstanding. That's amazing. I myself, I can barely get up 4 flights of stairs without being exhausted, man. So the amount of energy and stamina that you have and dedication, it's amazing. It's astounding. So that's amazing. Thank you for that. I just want to now at this time bring in one of our youth members who will ask you a couple questions, Mr. Akash. Mr. Ishan.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So
You're good
first
to
up,
go.
I just wanted to say congratulations on the journey. I think it's pretty awesome, especially the cause that you're doing it for too. I think it's all very cool. The first question I wanted to ask you was like before, like when you knew you were climbing all these mountains, how did you like prepare for this journey, like mentally and physically? Like before you climb such big mountains, what was the thought process?
So physical training is a very big part of your climbing preparation. But I focus more on the mental part because I think if you're strong mentally, physically you can somehow manage because it's spread out over such a long time, 60, 45 days, that I think physically it doesn't become, that's not priority number one. Priority number one is how to be strong mentally, because you're on the mountain, you're sleeping in a tent for such a long time, you're brushing your teeth with ice cold water every morning. And during the summit push, actually for 9 days we didn't even brush because everything gets frozen. So the water, if you take it outside your tent, it's going to freeze in 5 minutes, so there's no use in trying to do anything like that. So you just carry wet wipes with alcohol. Those things don't freeze. So you just clean your face with that. There's no showers for such a long time. So I think mentally people get tired, and we had people who gave up because of these reasons. They signed up thinking they would be a luxury trip where you would have your own personal tent with a standing shower and stuff like that. No, that doesn't happen. So I think physically everybody can manage because the loads are very light on Mount Everest. There are Sherpas who help you with all the loads if you want to. And I mean, you're not necessarily carrying a heavy backpack. All you're carrying is hot water, a couple of jackets, some gloves, extra gloves, and just some snacks.
Mhm.
Like on Denali, you carry everything yourself, including your human waste back. So whatever human waste you have, it goes in a box called the CMC, Clean Mountain Can. So it needs to come down. So you carry everything on Denali. So I think that's why Denali was a lot more difficult physically, I felt, compared to Everest, because on Everest you have help for everything. You need to carry yourself up to the mountain, and for that too you have oxygen above Camp 3, so it helps a lot. With oxygen you get warmer very easily, you don't get cold, you go faster, and you have less risk of frostbite injuries or cold injuries in your fingers and toes. So I think all of these things add up and they make Everest a lot easier compared to what some people think. or what it used to be, 20, 30, 40 years ago. That time was different, but I think now it's gotten a little easier.
Yeah, that's definitely. Um, okay, so I know you touched on it a little bit earlier on the article on how you were able to go like less days than the average person. What was like the process behind getting your body used to like the higher you go, the less oxygen you have? And like,
Right.
is there any point in that whole journey that like you really felt it, you know?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. So usually the reason it takes 65 to 70 days is because you do not climb Mount Everest in one go in a linear fashion. Because if you go straight up, you'll die of hypoxic environment, because your body is not adjusted to that altitude yet. So what people do is these things called rotations. So you start from base camp, you go to camp one, you sleep there for maybe 1 or 2 nights, get your body adjusted a little bit, and then you go to camp two, you got adjusted a little more by spending maybe 2 or 3 nights there, and then you touch camp three. You don't sleep there because camp three is extremely steep, so the tent sites there are extremely dangerous. I mean, with the tents are known to just roll off the mountain there. So you have to be extremely careful there. You cannot step out of the tent for anything. So people don't usually sleep at camp three, but they touch camp three and then they come down to base camp. So that's called one rotation. Now you rest at base camp for 5 days, 6 days for your body to rest and recover. And then maybe you do another rotation, the same thing up to camp three, and then you come back. So these things are called rotations. So on Everest, people do 2 rotations on Mount Everest, and then they do another peak, which is called Mount Lobuche. Um, Climbing Mount Lobuche is counted as one rotation as well. So in total, you're doing around 3 rotations. With Hypoxico, we were able to sleep at a very high altitude, simulated high altitude at home. So I did not need to do many rotations. We did only one rotation just to see how the mountain was and get our body tested. We did not have any headaches or anything, any signs of mountain sickness. So we felt that we were ready for the summit push. And when the right window came for the weather, we just pushed on.
Got it. Well, it's actually really cool. I think that's really cool personally. Um, that's all my questions. I just wanted to say congrats again, and thank you for answering.
Thank you, Ishan, for all your questions. We have another youth member who would like to ask some questions. So, Mishti, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, Akash Bhaiya. It's crazy to think just a couple of years ago, you were showing me pictures of you climbing the Alaskan mountains, and now you finished Mount Everest. Congratulations. So my first question for you is, typically roping teams, as I researched for mountains, are 4 members. How big was your team for this expedition? How many guides were there?
Yeah, so actually roping team, that's a very good point. People think that on Mount Everest also you're roped up. That's not true. On Mount Everest, the route is fixed with safety lines from base camp all the way to the summit. So because there are so many people, you cannot be roped up. In our company, we had 45 clients and more than 15 guides. And they were all divided into different kinds of teams. Ours was a speed ascent, so we had a different team, and people who were doing Everest and Lhotse combo. Lhotse is the 4th highest mountain or 3rd highest mountain, and it's right next to Mount Everest. So up to Camp 4, you share the same route, and then for Everest you take a left, and for Lhotse you make a right. So people were doing to both the mountains right after their last rotation. Some were going only up to camp 2. So there were different kinds of teams. Our team was just a very very small team of 3 people, 1 guide and 2 climbers. The other climber, interestingly, was from Croatia, and he was a UFC fighter, ex-UFC fighter for 10 years, professional UFC fighter. So he was like 6'5" or 6'6", something like that. He was very tall, very big, and we were not scared of him. He was a very nice guy.
That sounds really fun. I hope you both became best friends on that trip. So somebody in the chat also asked this, but this is also one of my questions. Did you face any difficulties while climbing Mount Everest?
Difficulties? Yes, I did. we had an incident when coming down. Um, Usually all the incidents happen when coming down because people let their guard down and they're happy and they're excited. So usually most of the accidents happen coming down. I ran out of oxygen around, around the summit. At the summit, we checked everybody's oxygen. They change oxygens at the summit, or there's another place called the South Summit. So from the main summit, you climb down, um, and then you reach the South Summit maybe after around 1 hour or so. So about 30 minutes from the South Summit, there's this place called Hillary Step, which is a little more difficult. You know, you have rocks and ice and all of that. So there was a lot of traffic, and we were stuck there for maybe half an hour. And I looked at my oxygen. I said to my Sherpa, his name was Sonam. I said, Sonam Dai, my oxygen is very low. Can you reduce the flow to maybe half a liter per minute so it runs for a little longer? And then we can change it at the South Summit. He said, it's not needed. It's okay. In half an hour, we'll be there. But we were stuck there for more than half an hour and my oxygen ran out. So I felt no air coming in. And our guide was ahead of me. I just had my Sherpa with me. So I told him I'm out of oxygen, but I can still walk slowly. So he said, okay, let's walk and then we'll change it at the South Summit. So I took my mask out completely, which nobody does. I took my mask out completely. And it was initially I felt very good because I had cold air coming in. You know, oxygen when you inhale from the mask, it becomes pretty warm because you have all the moisture and everything. So I felt very nice. It was cool, and um, I started walking. Maybe after 20-25 minutes, I was breathing extremely heavily. I wasn't tired, but just I was breathing very heavily because of lack of oxygen. And then there's this steep part, which I looked at, and then I just sat down on the side. I clipped myself in with the safety. I locked it, and I said, Sonam Dai, I am not going to walk up that thing. You go to South Summit, bring the oxygen, and I'm just sitting here. I'll wait for you for maybe 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. It takes around that time to go and get the oxygen. So that was a funny incident we had. While I was walking without the mask, I realized how difficult it is to do it without oxygen. Some people attempt. This year, out of 408, nobody attempted without oxygen. But usually every year you have at least 3-4 people who attempt without oxygen. But they have to be extremely careful because without oxygen, you get frostbite. You have a higher risk of frostbite. And, obviously you get exhausted more easily and all of these issues. But I felt like with the benefit of hindsight, I think it was a good thing that it happened for 25 minutes because I was able to experience and appreciate how much easier it is with oxygen than without.
Hearing about this is giving me anxiety right now. That is terrifying to hear, but that is really good that you got to experience something out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
That was really cool. My final question for you is, considering Mount Everest is like a big deal and the amount of funding that probably you need, could you give an estimate about how much funding you need for like equipment and training for Mount Everest? And is there any recognition and acknowledgement after you climb Mount Everest?
Well, recognition and acknowledgement comes if you do something unique. Maybe you're supporting a charity or you're doing a non-profit climb or something like that. Or if you're the youngest one to do it from your city or country or something like that. Funding wise, Everest is very expensive. And our guide was very nice. So he shared the breakdown, which people normally don't do, but he shared the breakdown of the costs, how much it costs to actually climb Everest. And I found out that these companies, even though they charge $65,000-$70,000, they don't really make a lot of money because of all of the expenses involved. 11,000 of that or 13,000 of that goes to the Nepal government directly for permit fees. So that's a very high cost. For $11,000, you can climb Denali comfortably. So it's very expensive. Equipment itself will add probably 10,000 or more to your costs. The good thing about equipment is it runs for your life. I mean, you buy a sleeping bag, it's good for your life. So you can reuse most of that equipment, for all of these other mountains. But for Everest itself, yeah, it is very expensive. Starts some of the cheaper companies in Nepal will do it for 30, 40,000, but those are the risky ones. You know, their goal is to get you up to the summit, and that's it. Then they're done. But not coming down is up to you. I mean, if you're strong enough, you'll come down. If not, they'll leave you there. And we had cases like that in the recent years. But some of these more experienced Western guides, Western companies will take you up, and they'll only take you up if they feel you can come down on your own. Otherwise, they'll cancel. So that's why out of 45 people this year in our company, we had only 10 summits on Mount Everest and 2 on Lhotse. So 12 out of 45, because some people were not feeling strong. They were running on very high rate of oxygen. So they would risk that they'll run out of oxygen, just going up. So how will they come down? So questions like these, guides, that's why you pay a lot of money to your guides, because of their experience and knowledge. And you let them decide what's best for you based on your performance.
All right. Thank you so much and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mishti, for those questions. Would like to bring to the floor Mr. Prakash Bhatt.
Hello, Mr. Akash. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations. My first question is, what was your most memorable moment from this trip? Like a highlight.
Well, the highlight of the trip, I would say, was when we started from South Col. South Col is the highest camp, Camp 4. That's called the death zone. It's at around 8,000 meters. And that's where your body stops producing more red blood cells. So it stops acclimatizing more. And you have to be on oxygen at all times. So even when sleeping, you have to be on oxygen. So I felt that it was extremely windy that day, May 22nd, the night at around 9 o'clock. When we started, it was so windy. It was all my fingers were frozen within 5 minutes, and I was wearing thick gloves. I was wearing multiple layers of gloves, and my toes were all frozen. So because the traffic was so long, we were walking for maybe 2 minutes and then stopping for 10 minutes. So I remembered from Mount Denali and all of the training that I've done, that if you get cold, you cannot just do this, because this is not enough. So you have to actively rewarm like this. You have to force blood into your extremities by doing this violently. So on the mountain, I was doing that. We have something called a Jumar, an ascender. I was holding the ascender. I would move maybe 2 steps, and then I would violently do this for 30 seconds. And then I would change my Jumar to the other hand and then do that again. So I was doing that for 3 hours. I think I wasted more energy doing this than actually climbing up, because it was so cold. And when you do this, after 2 or 3 minutes, you feel tingling in your hands. That means your blood is now flowing. And then you feel warmer. But that only lasts for maybe 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, it's cold again. So with your toes, you cannot do that violently, because you have big boots and all of that stuff, crampons. So toes, I was very worried about, and I considered saying to my guide that if we have the same kind of winds all the way up to the summit, I may need to turn back, because I probably will get frostbite very soon. But luckily, when we reached balcony is a point where you can see Tibet and China, or sorry, Tibet and Nepal. And that's the most exposed part, where you actually, if you fall into Tibet or Nepal. So that's where the winds died out. We had beautiful sunrise from Tibet side. And then I was satisfied that, okay, now I can continue on. Had balcony been windy, I would have asked my guide to do something, either increase my oxygen rate or go back or do something.
So was surviving that portion of the trip almost as much of a highlight as reaching the top?
It was, yeah, it was. And there were 11 climbers in Camp 4 that same night. And all of us were supposed to start at the same time. I thought we started at the same time, but later I found out that we were the only ones who started. Nobody else started because it was so windy. So I think my summit is all because of the decisiveness and bold decision of our of our guide. Otherwise, there was, I think, 8 other climbers, and they never even started. They were waiting for the winds to die down, and it never happened. So they did not summit.
Okay. My second question is, are all mountains basically the same in to train for and hike? I know you've climbed other mountains. So like between Denali, Everest, Kilimanjaro, what are the major differences for training and hiking?
Yeah, I think training wise, there's plenty of differences, because on Denali, you're carrying a sled with so much weight. So you need to have very strong upper body strength. Um, on Everest, I did not know that before going, but I found out you use jumaring a lot. So jumar is this thing that bites into the rope. It's a device, and it moves only in one direction. So you move it up, you walk up, and it's attached to you with a rope. And if you were to fall, it's going to catch you, because it will never come down. It will stick to that rope there in that position. So that's a jumar. So you basically jumar up, and then you have to pull yourself up using your arms. So I felt like on Everest, you need arm strength also. On other mountains, you really don't, because all you're doing is just walking with trekking poles, or where you're using rocks as your grips, just like rock climbing. So legs are most important, but sometimes is also upper body strength is also nice to have. Especially if you have a heavy backpack and then you're jumaring, then it's very difficult and tiring. And for
Okay.
mountains like Kilimanjaro, Elbrus, um, those are basically just long hikes. Those are not technical at all. I mean, Kilimanjaro, we were 2 people, Tarun and I, and we had 10 people supporting us. So you can imagine the level of support. They carry everything for you. They'll carry even your backpack if you want, even though we chose not to, but they do everything for you. So mountains like Kilimanjaro, you just need to just be able to walk.
Okay. And so for a mountain like Everest that's so high, what kind of, do you use any cell phone? What kind of network do you need to get reception up there in case you need to make an emergency call for help or anything?
Yeah, you do not get reception on Mount Everest. At base camp, you get this internet called Everest Extreme. It's very expensive, $200 for 10 gigabytes, but but that's the Wi-Fi that you have, and it's dependent on the sun, because it's all solar powered. And whenever you have sun, the Wi-Fi works. If you don't have the sun, it will work for a little bit, but the batteries, if they die out, and if you have a storm or something like that, the next day the Wi-Fi will stop. So cell phone does not work anywhere on the mountain, and Wi-Fi only works at base camp. The moment you leave base camp, you have to rely on walkie-talkies. So all of the Sherpas and guides, they had something like that. Uh, in a bigger group, they'll also have a satellite phone. So in case the walkie-talkie doesn't work, and it doesn't work, walkie-talkie doesn't work all the time. From Camp 4, we were not able to contact base camp, so we had to use the sat phone. So sat phone will usually work anywhere in any kind of environment, even if it's snowing.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prakash, for your questions. We do have some questions from audience members. So I think Nidhi, you want to ask your question first?
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear. Okay, sorry. Yeah, I was not sure if everyone can hear me. So, hey, Akash, how are you?
Namaste, Andy. Very good. How are you?
Good. It's so good to know someone who climbed the Mount Everest, and really, it's so happy to know someone famous finally. Actually, he's really happy to come for you to come back. So, my question is on the as a parent's perspective. So, how would you suggest like the parents like me who have younger kids to prepare the kids to go for the expeditions like these, which are expensive and dangerous? Because hats off to your parents who did let you go through that, and what kind of support was given by them to you So that's what my question is.
Well, you cannot do anything about funding. Money you have to pay. But
Yeah.
I think if you're scared about safety and all of that, I think there are things you can do. First thing is make sure that you're well trained. You know, you have taken some sort of
Mhm.
formal education or formal training in whatever
Yeah.
you're doing, bungee jumping, skydiving, whatever.
Mhm.
Second thing is make sure you progress in a nice fashion. You just don't go from training to Mount Everest directly. No, you should
Yeah.
have some experience, some practical experience before that. And the
Mhm.
most important thing I think is you have to choose the right people to go with.
Yeah.
You can choose some of the lower cost operators and risk your life, or you can pay a little bit more, but be assured that their success rate is very high and the safety rate is very high.
Yeah.
The number
You
of deaths
you can ask.
and stuff like that.
So what is the, like, somebody like wants to get for the expedition or something, what is the right time to start? Like, what, when you started, that you like thinking that, okay, I have to go for the mountaineering and something like that?
Oh, I was very old compared to Chile. Chile, no, it will take.
Oh.
They have legal requirements as well. I mean, Mount Everest you cannot climb until you're age 18. After age 18, but I
Okay.
think between 18 and 21 also you need special permission. Above 21 you
Oh,
don't need
okay.
it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Kilimanjaro is the same. Below 18 not allowed. Denali I
Okay.
think it's 21, so below 21 not allowed. So
Okay.
you have to get special permission. But
Oh,
I
that's
think
good.
yeah, like, the adult age
Yeah.
18 is the
All
time
right.
when you start
Okay.
these kind of things.
Yeah. So Chili is happy that he still have like 8 more years.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Akash.
Interest and motivation can be developed from now on.
I know. Yeah, he's
Okay.
really like, he's really waiting for you to come back and have lots of questions, right, Patsal? All right. Thank you, Akash. Have a good trip.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Does anyone else have any other questions they would like to ask now?
Yes, I do. Of course. I mean, can I?
Yeah.
So Akash, just jokes apart, तो तुम्हारा equipment मैं use कर सकता हूँ आगे, this for lifetime, I
Sure.
guess, right? I
Yes.
heard a 75-year-old submitted, a person from US submitted this year. So मेरे हौसले भी बुलंद हैं अभी. I don't know when, but my red blood cell बहुत कम है. But having said that, what's holding you up there? अभी कितना और वहाँ पे रहना पड़ेगा वापस आने के लिए?
वीजा इश्यूज है यहाँ पे बिकॉज मेरे को H1 वीजा स्टैंपिंग चाहिए और एम्बेसी यहाँ पे क्लोज है. तो जब मैं आया था तो नेपाल एम्बेसी ओपन थी और श्रीलंका भी ओपन था और इंडिया भी ओपन था.
No, अच्छा वो health related वो जरूरी नहीं वहाँ रुकना, right? I was just wondering. Okay.
नहीं.
It's not like you just come, you cannot come back right away. Okay.
Most people have flown away because
Nice.
charter flights organize कर रही है embassy. So यहाँ से दोहा and Istanbul and New Delhi, three flights a week. And ज्यादातर लोग तो चले गए हैं. मैं बस वो वीजा के इश्यूज की वजह से रुका हुआ हूँ. But hopefully वो भी एक दो वीक में रिजॉल्व हो जाएगा.
नहीं, I'm excited. तो कोई सवाल तो है नहीं हमारे लिए, बस we are all happy.
Yeah.
I have a question. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go
Okay.
ahead.
Akash, congratulations, awesome job. And I know that I've been following up with you all along, do wherever you kind of hiked. So my question is, now you know the do's and don'ts, right? And so I'm just kind of curious, would you do it again with a greater confidence if you're given a chance?
No, I probably wouldn't do it again.
Wouldn't do it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Even though
Okay.
the experience was enjoyable, seeing the crowds, we could see when we walked out of our tents at 9 o'clock on May 22nd, and we started walking. I did not expect 200 people to be there. And when we started from the base of the mountain, South Summit is very close to the summit. Like I said, it's about 1 hour. We could see from the base of the mountain all the way to South Summit. We could see headlamps at 9 o'clock at night. And it's like when you decorate your house during Diwali, you put lamps right next to Diya. So it was like that.
Wait.
Too many people, I think,
Okay.
and that is a safety issue because you get cold, you could get frostbite. Like I was very close to getting probably something in my legs. Hands were okay because I was doing this, but my feet I was very worried about. So due to the traffic and traffic only, I probably wouldn't go. But if you move out the traffic, then yeah, it's an enjoyable climb. I would probably do it again. Maybe a different route from the north side, from China side, or maybe train for many years and do it without oxygen or attempt. So something like that, I could definitely try. But looking at the crowds, I don't think I ever will.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you.
हेलो आकाश, अजय रावत। सबसे पहले तो कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशंस, ये
Thank you,
एक
thank
बहुत
you.
बड़ा आपने काम है, अचीवमेंट है, जिसके लिए हम सभी उत्तराखंडी लोग काफी आपसे मतलब हमें बहुत खुशी है कि हमारा अपना एक माउंट एवरेस्ट पे चढ़ के आया है। चढ़ाई की शुरू में एक जगह आती है जिसे खुम्बू आइसफॉल कहते हैं, और माना जाता है कि वो एक बहुत ही खतरनाक क्लाइंब है वहां पे, क्योंकि शायद बर्फ हिलती जुलती भी रहती है और काफी उसमें मूवमेंट रहता है। तो आपका एक्सपीरियंस खुम्बू आइसफॉल की क्लाइंब के दौरान कैसा रहा? क्या आप उसको थोड़ा शेयर करेंगे हमारे साथ?
Yeah, of course. Khumbu आइसफॉल तो मेरा सबसे फेवरेट पार्ट था पूरी क्लाइंब का, बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली डेंजरस है। आइसफॉल होता है, एवलांचेस आते हैं। अभी इंस्टाग्राम पे मैं चेक कर रहा था, किसी ने पोस्ट करा है, पूरा खुम्बू आइसफॉल डिस्ट्रॉय हो गया। या पूरा सीजन का ऑब्वियसली सीजन एंड तो हो चुका है जून 3 को, बट जून 3 के आई थिंक 4th या 5th को इतना बड़ा एवलांच आया कि पूरा खुम्बू आइसफॉल डिस्ट्रॉय। अगर वहाँ पे कोई होता तो देयर इज नो चांस ऑफ सर्वाइवल। So that was actually my most enjoyable part because उधर exposure बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. So you're rappelling down a steep section, a vertical section on a rope. जैसा movies में दिखाते हैं you hero की तरह। तो वो होता है, backpack होता है इतना भारी साथ में, और लोग होते हैं आगे पीछे। तो वो बहुत एक्सपोज सेक्शन है और क्लाइंब भी करना पड़ता है, बिल्कुल वर्टिकल सेक्शन, कभी कभी बहुत स्टीप रहता है। तो उसी वजह से वो मेरा सबसे फेवरेट पार्ट था। और उसको ऊपर जाते हुए तो वी गो एट नाइट, ताकि जो सारा आइस एंड स्नो है वो पूरी की पूरी फ्रोजन रहे, तो नो चांस ऑफ एवलांचेस एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट, रॉक फॉल। बट व्हेन यू कम डाउन, यू कैन कम डाउन अप टू मे बी नून। आफ्टर नून इट गेट्स टू हॉट, और उसके बाद रिस्क होता है ऑफ एवलांचेस एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट। So I think that was my favorite section, even though people don't like it. There were some people who were at Camp 2 after the summit push. And obviously they didn't summit. They were one of those 8 people who never started. So they were so scared of the ice fall. They were ready to pay $7,500 for a 3-minute helicopter ride from Camp 2 to base camp to be rescued.
Wow.
Because they did not want to walk. It was late in the season. We came down, I think, 26th or 25th, and they were very scared of the ice fall. I wasn't, because I knew we were going at the right time. अगर noon से पहले जाएंगे तो it's pretty cold और बहुत solid रहता है, frozen रहता है, so it's not super risky. Evening time, maybe 2 or 3 o'clock, जब पूरा sun at its peak, or then it's more dangerous. But before that, it's pretty safe. So I felt that was my favorite part of the climb.
और मेरा दूसरा सवाल है कि कोई ऐसी चीज मतलब एवरेस्ट पे जाने से पहले आपने एक दिमाग में आपके एक इमेज रही होगी, और कि आपको ऐसा ऐसा मिलेगा और ऐसा ऐसा करना पड़ेगा। कोई ऐसी चीज जो आपने सोची थी कुछ किस्म की होगी और वो उससे बिल्कुल ही अलग प्रकार की थी, या कोई ऐसा
I think
जो आपने कभी सोचा था कि शायद इतना कठिन नहीं होगा, लेकिन वहां जाके पता चला कि काफी कठिन था, जितना आपने सोचा था उससे ज्यादा था?
हाँ, नहीं, मेरे केस में ऑपोजिट था। When coming down, मेरे को देनाली में थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्टी हुई थी, बिकॉज मैं देनाली के लिए I didn't train at all. When people train for many years or at least many months. So Denali में when we were coming down, I had slight difficulty in my legs. I was very tired. So एवरेस्ट में भी मेरे को लगा था कि शायद ऐसा हो सकता है कि हम लोग समिट में जाएंगे, और नेक्स्ट डे हमारा प्लान था कि समिट के बाद विल कम डायरेक्टली टू कैंप 2, which is a long way to come down. So I was worried I may not be able to make it, without getting extremely tired. But fortunately, with oxygen, with the magic of oxygen, it was much easier than expected. Although we didn't camp to Camp 2 because our guide had issues, but due to the extreme winds, he had zero vision in his left eye. His vision was completely gone temporarily. And that's a common problem. People have that all the time. Their corneas, they freeze and they're not able to see for maybe 1 or 2 days. So he had that issue. And then he had something in his stomach also. He was vomiting a lot. So उस वजह से हम लोग Camp 4 में रुक गए थे उस रात को. But from summit to Camp 4 also, I felt like I could do that again the next day. We were feeling very strong because I trained for a little bit for the legs at the gym, and we had plenty of oxygen, and we have very good guides. So that was a positive surprise to have.
Good. Thank you.
Hi, Akash. This is Varsha here. Congrats on your remarkable journey, first of all. My question for you is, during your expedition, what did you eat and how did you obtain food and water, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, that's a good question. People always wonder what you eat. At base camp, they have a very nice kitchen with ovens and fridges and everything. Well, not fridges, but they have most of the equipment. They can even make ice cream at base camp. So our base camp was very well stocked. They bake bread, fresh bread every day. And for me, being Indian, Nepali guides, they eat dal bhat, which is the staple food of India. So I had dal bhat every single day. And the first few days I had to request for dal bhat, but after a few days they recognized I like it, and I started eating dal bhat. There's another guy from Ecuador, 65 years old, Mario. He also liked dal bhat so much that he would have dal bhat with me every single evening and afternoon. So
Oh, wow.
food is not a problem at base camp. It's a problem higher above. So Camp 2 also, food is not a problem because they have an okay kitchen at Camp 2. But Camp 3 and Camp 4 is where food is a problem. So you have to ration your food because all of that weight adds up. And Sherpas, if they carry food up, they don't want to carry the food down. They get really upset that you carry extra food and then you don't eat it. So we carry limited food, and it's mostly calorie dense food, like bacon and lots of butter and all that stuff. So weight to calorie ratio is pretty good. We also did have a lot of soup because people don't drink enough water up at that altitude. So if you drink a lot of soup and ramen and all that stuff, Korean noodles, that substitutes a lot of the water that you should have had. So food is a problem only at Camp 3 and 4, I would say, where you spend a little bit of time, not much. But at base camp, where you spend most of your time, food is not an issue. Some people even gain weight during the trip, which is surprising because everybody in our group lost weight. I lost 6 kilograms, about 15 pounds, 14 pounds. And there was another guy who lost 24 kgs, the UFC fighter that I was talking about, my partner. He lost 24 kilos. That's like 50 pounds. Because he was such a big guy. And we were eating the same food, right? Food is rationed. So I was getting the same amount of food as him. I'm much smaller than him. So I was okay, but he was always hungry. So he was eating chocolates and all of that stuff, but he still lost 24 kilos. I was also surprised that much amount of weight you're losing.
All right. Thank you, Akash, for sharing.
Hi. I'm joining from California and I have a question. My question is, what is the next mountain you're gonna climb and when?
Hello, Yuvakshi. I don't know which mountain. I wanted to finish the 7 summits first, but there's another opportunity that came up in Europe. In Europe, they have in the Alps, they have Mont Blanc, Matterhorn, and Eiger. You may have seen Matterhorn, which became really famous when they projected the Indian flag. So I may try that trio or that combo pretty soon. And then we have plans for Mount Elbrus, which is the highest in Europe, one of the 7 summits. Not very difficult, but it's in Europe, so you have to go to Russia and all of that. So that'll probably be my next project.
And my other question is, what was your favorite part during the journey?
Favorite part, we spoke about that, the ice fall, walking up and down the ice fall, considered very dangerous, but I really enjoyed it. And we were lucky that we were passing through the times when it was very solid and frozen. So we did not have any risk of avalanches or stuff like that. That was my favorite part.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, Akash. Congratulations. I have a question.
Yes.
How large of an area is at the peak, in terms of, how many people were there firstly when you were there, and then how does it look like in terms of terrain? Like the peak, is it like flat or what is it like?
Yeah, I had before going, I had heard that the summit is the size of a ping pong table, and that's more or less true. But it's not like you climb the mountain and then suddenly there's this flat spot. No, you after Hillary Step, it's a very gradual, slow ascent to the summit. So it's a very simple hike after Hillary Step for maybe 20 minutes. And so actually, if you think about it, the summit area starts from Hillary Step, because for 25 minutes or 20 minutes, you're walking pretty flat areas, and that flat area or that very slow ascent incline just suddenly stops one place, and that's the summit. So the summit is not like you climb a couple of rocks and you climb the Hillary Step and then suddenly you reach a flat area. No, it's pretty big, but obviously it's in an incline like this. So the summit, the true summit, would actually be the very end, right here. But it's so dangerous because there's nothing underneath. So if you stand right here, this whole thing could fall. So people usually stop around here somewhere, and they leave a little bit of safety here, so the whole thing doesn't collapse, because you could break Mount Everest that way.
You'll break another record, right? So
First,
and how
people
many,
fall off the mountain. Actually, people have fallen off the summit.
oh really?
Yeah.
And how many people were there when you were there, like you and your co-climber and the Sherpas? And when you were actually there were some other people there too?
Yeah. There were a lot of people. In my picture, also the summit picture that I've shared, you can see there's so many people around. But the good thing is everybody is respectful of everybody else. They know people want to take pictures and videos. So they spend maybe 10, 15 minutes each, and they quickly go back. Because you have to worry about your oxygen also. You cannot spend 1 hour on the summit. People who did summit on the 11th and 12th, they had very little crowds. They had in total maybe 25, 30 people for the whole summit push. So they were able to spend more time on the summit. So I've heard from my teammates who submitted then that they were able to spend maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hours on the summit with reduced oxygen. You can reduce the flow of the oxygen because you're not moving much. You're just sort of sitting in one place. So you can spend more time then. But with more traffic, it's not a good idea.
Thank you. And do you want to talk a little bit about your charity? Since you
Sure. Yeah. So Attach Away Autism Foundation is a local Piscataway based foundation. I set up a GoFundMe page usually before every climb. I did for Mount Everest also. And we do a lot of work. I am one of the volunteers who have been with the charity for many years, 5, 6, 7 years. We do a lot of work in there are many charities like Autism Speaks and others which fund a lot of medical research for autism, which is good. But what about kids who already have autism and who are becoming adults? There's no charity, there's no mainstream charity that gives them a social platform or helps them mix in with the mainstream population. So our goal is to care about the people who already have autism and who are already who need that kind of support from us.
Thank you, Akash.
आकाश में वो पिक्चर के बारे में थोड़ा रंजन का सवाल था, वो एक पिक्चर इतनी क्यूरियोसिटी पैदा कर रही है मेरे को. आई एम क्यूरियस माई सेल्फ एंड आई एम श्योर अदर पीपल विल बी क्यूरियस. मैं वो पिक्चर शेयर करता हूँ. वो उस पिक्चर को मैंने रिनेम किया वॉकिंग ऑन द मून. वो बिल्कुल मून का सरफेस लग रहा, और जहाँ वो 5-6 लोग हैं उसके नीचे बिल्कुल किनारे पे तुम लोग हो, उसके बाद नीचे हॉलो है. तो ऐसा लग रहा है कि ज्यादा वेट होगा तो पूरा ही वो आइस गिर जाएगा नीचे. वो समिट है या क्या है, उसको थोड़ा एक्सप्लेन करना. वो बहुत ही डेंजरस पिक्चर लग रही है, बहुत ही खूबसूरत भी है. मून फेज ऐसा है. एक सेकंड में शेयर करता हूँ.
तब तक आकाश, मेरा एक और छोटा सा सवाल है.
Yeah.
जैसे कि बहुत सुना है कि कुछ अनफॉर्चुनेट क्लाइंबर्स जो कि वापस नहीं आ पाते, उनके शरीर वहीं पे रह जाते हैं. क्या आपको कोई ऐसा हुआ सामना किसी का जो आपको दिखा, कोई डेड बॉडी या कुछ?
हाँ, हमें मेरे को जाने से पहले एक बॉडी का तो पता था कि हिलेरी स्टेप पे एक है. कोई लॉयर था फ्रॉम कोलोराडो और यूटा, आई थिंक from 2019. He died of exhaustion. So I knew that there was one body that we would have to cross. I did not expect it to be right on the way, that you would have to step over it. I expected that they would have moved it to the left and slightly below the mountain. But it's still there, and he's still wearing the glasses and mask and everything, and it looks like he's just resting there, sitting there. So जब हम लोग ऊपर जा रहे थे, and then coming down also when I ran out of oxygen, ऊपर जाते हुए around 20 minutes and नीचे आते हुए around 30 minutes, we were stuck in traffic jam around Hillary Step. So I mean, that body was in perfect view, and I was surprised that they didn't move it, because other people who were struggling to go up and down, they were falling almost on that body. Like I wouldn't be surprised if people have in the past stepped on the body with their crampons on. So that is something I did not like. Maybe they should extract the body and bring it down or do something about it, because that's a hazard, and that's not respectful to the person who died. And then there was another body who they were trying to recover that from 2012. Somebody died back in the day, so they're trying to recover that. So that body was there. Our own Sherpa died from our company, Tashi Sherpa. So they set up a GoFundMe page to help him. We had 2 other climbers who died, but all of their bodies were recovered and hidden from plain sight. But the only one which I was worried about was the one in Hillary Step. It's just not respectful. I think they should bring the body down.
स्क्रीन देख रहा?
Yeah.
ओके. तो ये जो मैं कह रहा था, ये जो है ना, ये तुम लोग यहाँ हैं और ये बिल्कुल कॉर्नर से ऐसा लग रहा है कि अगर ये नीचे गिर गया तो नीचे हॉलो है. पूरा ये टॉप है, समिट ये है या ये क्या है?
यही मैं बोल रहा था कि हिलरी स्टेप के बाद ऐसे ही स्लोप है. बहुत ज्यादा स्लोप नहीं है, बहुत सिंपल है वॉक. तो एक्चुअल समिट किसको बोलेंगे इसमें, जहाँ पे ये नीचे खड़ा है मेरा पार्टनर मारियो? नहीं, एक्चुअली ये गाइड है, सॉरी. तो वेयर दिस गाइड इज स्टैंडिंग, और जहाँ पे ये लोग हैं, यू वुड काउंट जहाँ पे ये लोग हैं टू बी द समिट, बिकॉज वो लिटिल हायर है. So summit, actually, this is what I meant when I was saying there's no immediate flat area or you think this is the summit. Summit actually starts right after the Hillary Step. So if you have more people, they can spread out, and this whole thing is the summit. So the last 25-minute walk is similar like this. And this actually, yeah, this is a ledge. Iske niche kuch nahi hai. If this whole thing breaks, everybody goes down.
हाँ, वही मैं ये देख, ये can you see my marker moving? ये जो एरिया है, ये दिख रहा मुझे. इसके नीचे तो बिल्कुल आसमान है, खाली है. और ये तुम लोग यहाँ हैं. अगर यहाँ थोड़ा और वेट हो या कुछ और हो और ये नीचे पूरा गिर गया तो इसके नीचे तो कुछ भी नहीं दिख रहा हमें. ये तो ऐसा लग रहा है तुम लोग
ये तो इतना मोटा है, इसमें तो ये तो 4-5 मीटर thick है ice sheet. ये तो this will never break. You can put anything on top. We were walking जब हम लोग नीचे जा रहे थे ice fall में या फिर camp 1-2 में, तो जो crevasses थे वो तो they're only 6-7 inches thick. That's it. उसके नीचे hollow है, पूरा खाली है, crevasse है. But the snow bridge उसके ऊपर, that's only 6 or 7 inches thick like this. And hundreds of people walk over that. So even 6 and 7 inches is okay for a few people. This is more than enough. This is never going to break. But as you venture out, आगे यहाँ पे और ज़्यादा वहाँ पे ice sheet बहुत पतली है, वहाँ पे risky होता है कि आदमी कोई भी slip कर सकता है या वो टूट सकता है. But यहाँ पे तो 4-5 meters is more than enough. This is never going to break.
Hey Akash.
नमस्ते अंकल जी.
नमस्ते बेटा, कैसे हो?
मैं बढ़िया, आप कैसे हो?
Good to see you. Good to see you. हाँ, बड़ी स्क्रीन आ गई है. आपने करी है? अच्छा. When are you coming back?
अभी पता नहीं, एक शायद 2 हफ्ता और लग सकता है.
Okay. Okay. नेगी जी कैसे हैं?
First class, thank you.
Sorry, I joined.
Akash, I have a request. If you don't mind, can you share a few more pictures, please? The visual was like so cool.
Yeah, Smita,
Can you share your screen?
I was about to ask him, but I could do it that if you saw after that nice picture we talked about, I did see the Indian flag. I wanted to.
Can you please show? Yeah, I mean either Akash or you.
Pictures. Yeah, these pictures look good. I can do that, Akash. If you don't have the pictures open, I have the pictures open.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And Akash can give us some commentary, like what was his experience.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So.
Hey guys, this is Girish Prasad Bhatt. I'm from California, San Francisco, part of UMA, if you have not heard that, Uttarakhand, Mandal of America. So I keep getting your emails and I got this invitation. So I just joined late. So congratulations, Akash, on your great achievement. We're so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, so Akash, yeah, I'll quickly run through the pictures. You can briefly describe. This is hypoxia. He was talking about hypoxia.
Hypoxica.
Okay,
this was the tent and the machine you can see and the hose that's coming in. That will push nitrogen in. So you sleep in that. The mask that I'm wearing is only for exercising. So when you sleep, you don't have to wear a mask.
Okay, and then.
This is
one of the two is you, right?
Yes, left one.
Left
this
one.
is our guide. He is just helping me put my oxygen mask on after adjusting something. I don't know what.
And we have already talked about this. I like this picture. This is great picture.
This is at 29,000 feet, right?
29,000 feet, yes. Almost the top.
This is the picture everybody loves. The whole India loves this picture.
Very lovely, yeah. Lovely shot, huh? Everything is so colorful, bright.
I did not want so many people in the picture. I wanted just me and the flag. The problem is it was very windy. So my guide, he's this person with the red down suit, Kailash, written on his arm. This guy is my guide. So he had to come in and he had to hold the flag. And I think without the mask, I think I was hypoxic, feeling a little weird. So I did not know which orientation was right for the flag. The orange should go down or the green should come up.
No, orange is good. The orange on the top is good.
Yeah. I was thinking about that because I had no mask on. So without the mask on, you get in a hypoxic state and you have to think about even little things. So I was confused, but my guide, he had his mask on and he was fully alert. So he corrected everything and we took a picture.
You want to talk about removing the mask because people may be curious to know, because we have the sense that there's no oxygen on the Mount Everest. But
yeah, when you remove the mask, there's only 1/3 oxygen at that altitude. So, and the pressure is very low. So with every breath, you're getting very little oxygen. So after a few minutes, you start getting hypoxic and you start getting cold. When you get hypoxic, you get confused. You think it's warm, but it's actually cold. So most of the bodies that they find, who people who run out of oxygen, they have their down suit out and their gloves all thrown out because they feel very warm. For some reason, I don't know why, but all the bodies they find are like that usually, of people who run out of oxygen.
This is the attached Chabi Foundation he was talking about.
So Akash, is this the only way to kind of show evidence or prove that you reached the summit? Is just to take a picture? Or
No,
is there
picture
like
is just for your own use. There's no nobody asks for a proof. The only proof is that the guide you have, they'll contact the Ministry of Tourism here, and they give them the exact time when you submitted.
Hello.
Your name, and that is when they give you a certificate saying you submitted. You don't have to show pictures. I mean, they take the guide's word for it. The guide could lie and say we submitted, in fact, when you didn't, and you'll still get a certificate. But usually, usually people find out because there was a couple from Mumbai, India, who lied in 2017. They said we submitted and they photoshopped themselves. Another person found out. He said, "This is my clothing, and you just put your face on my clothing and my picture." So Nepal government actually banned them for 5 years, and they said you're not allowed to come to Nepal for 5 years. So people do that, but it's very rare.
This is where Camp 4.
Yeah, this is Camp 4. So we were 3 people. This is the UFC fighter in the middle, and this is our guide in the front. And I was just showing how this mask is set up, and you sleep like this, so you don't remove the mask when you're sleeping.
So this man is the guide, Big Tandy. I thought he's
How many trips he must have made, the guide, so far?
He has done 10 Everest expeditions and 4 summits.
Okay.
But we were lucky because he is the instructor for all of the other guides. So everybody knows him and everybody respects him.
And this one again is South Call, Camp 4.
Yes, this is the highest camp, Camp 4. So this is right before the summit.
Do the guides and Sherpas get any recognition? I mean, they work so hard. What is their recognition? Of course, they do it for a living, but that's not.
Yeah. People, some do. Guides and Sherpas, all of them, whoever summits will get a summit bonus, a tip. So that is substantial for them. You know, that can sustain them in the village for maybe 5-6 months. So the tips are substantial for guides and Sherpas. The other thing is, if you submitted with let's say, and you submitted a few times, like there's this guy Kami Rita Sherpa, he has done it 25 times. So he's very famous now. He just finished 25th time this year. So they have a foundation in his name, and he's very famous. He gives talks and speeches and stuff like that. We had one guide in our group who has done it 11 times. He's also very famous. He goes to Google and Facebook and Amazon, and in California and Washington, and he's invited to give talks there, lectures. So some of them get very famous, but some others, like there was one Sherpa I was speaking with. He has done it 13-14 times, but he doesn't speak any English. His job is to just carry the loads up and down. So those kind of Sherpas, they don't get much recognition. All they get is good money because they're respected, well respected on the mountain. But outside the mountain, nobody knows about them.
Pritam bhai, this is the stuff we are going to share between you and me, because next we are going to do
yes, you and me
Mount
are going.
Everest
Yes.
Base camp.
जी आप और मैं जा रहे हैं उसके बाद
मैंने लिस्ट में
या तो घर में बैठ के ही पहन लेंगे, कोई बात नहीं. I'll be happy wearing it at home, you know.
Okay, so the last
But Akash, Akash,
running this.
just from zero to summit, आप कितना time लगा from first time when you started और summit करने तक कितना साल?
हम लोग because of speed ascent हम लोग नेपाल लेट गए थे, so we reached April 23rd and sorry April 22nd I think, and summit था हमारा April 23rd, so I would say around 1 month, 30 days.
There was this lady in the news, उसने कुछ 26 घंटे में किया Hong Kong की, she from base to कहाँ से, she was in the news something, you know, Hong Kong की कोई lady.
Yeah, I think I don't know वो successful हुई कि नहीं हुई, because उसका idea था Everest and then Lhotse and under 24 hours, because Everest से जब लोग Everest and Lhotse combination करते हैं, so Everest करके वो लोग Lhotse के high camp में जाते हैं, एक दिन वहाँ पे rest करते हैं and then they attempt Lhotse. But I think she wanted to do it in one push. So Everest, come down, go to Lhotse and do it the same day or the same push. No rest, no
She
break.
did only the Everest in 26 hours. So she was in the news. So Everest
Yeah.
करा उसने 26. Wong है उसका नाम.
Yeah, उसका goal और भी ambitious था, but 26 hours just for Everest is also very, very respectable. And then there was another guy who is completely blind, so he becomes the first. No, not the first blind. I think there are other people who have done it before him, but
I heard that. और आपने एक और mention किया आपके group में कोई 65 year का कोई थे, वो did he summit?
Yeah. Dr. Michael Patterson. Yeah, he wanted to try without oxygen, but yeah, he उसने बहुत train करा था for many years. But when he came to base camp, he realized that he's not fit enough to do it without oxygen. So even with oxygen, he struggled a lot. He lost his vision again. I think his right cornea was frozen. So he was a doctor himself, so he's pretty experienced with these kind of things. But he had incident of frostbite in his fingers, lost his vision, I think right eye, and then he broke his arm also, left arm, completely from here. So he had to be rescued out. But he was a very nice guy. I wish इतना सब नहीं हुआ होता accidents, but
no. But technically as a age wise बोलते हैं 50 के बाद तो बहुत risky होता है, but even otherwise younger the better. But
नहीं ऐसा कुछ नहीं है.
अच्छा.
50, 60, I think 65, 70 के बाद you have issues, underlying issues होता है कुछ भी, तो that becomes dangerous. But even if you're 70 years old, if you don't have underlying issues, तो कोई problem नहीं है.
चलो अजय रावत मदबर जी चलो तैयारी करते हैं, ठीक है.
प्रीतम भाई 15 साल की विंडो है हमारे पास.
That's true. Sorry, let others ask questions. Sorry भाई हम लोग ही बात कर रहे हैं, please.
मैंने एक एग्जांपल शेयर करूंगा. लास्ट टाइम 2019 में हमारी कंपनी में एक इंसिडेंट हुआ था. So that guy was a little older and he had heart issues. So ऊपर जाके his heart just stopped working. So things like those happen, which are actually preventable, because if अगर ये सब issues है, तो you can take the right kind of medication, aspirin and all of that stuff. Or if you don't, if you just don't go. अगर ऐसा issue है. But people still try to push and sometimes bad things happen.
Yeah, Akash, I wondered, was there any impact of COVID? मैंने कुछ पढ़ा था in Mount Everest.
Yeah, COVID was pretty bad this year. Nepal government and all these expedition leaders, they were trying to play it down. वो लोग बोल रहे थे कि COVID तो नहीं है, कोई reports नहीं है, किसी ने report नहीं करा. But that's all a lie. We were speaking directly with the
helicopter. I wanted to hear
rescue pilots, and the pilots were from Switzerland and Canada. They said we have rescued over 200 people with COVID. So, and they only rescue climbers and only Sherpas who are in extreme condition. So, जो Sherpa है जिनको COVID है without symptoms or less severe symptoms, they don't even get rescued in a helicopter. So, and I think Sherpa population में तो COVID was very, very common. All our Sherpas tested positive. So our expedition was actually cancelled. We were lucky to summit on the 23rd when all the Sherpas were healthy. But on जब हम लोग नीचे आए थे 29th or 28th को, तो पूरा expedition cancel हो गया. Nobody was allowed to go back up.
गिरीश आपका सवाल शायद पूरा नहीं हुआ था. आपको do you want to ask something? Sorry, आप गिरीश प्रसाद आप पूछ रहे थे कुछ. Sorry. Last time.
No, I was just looking at some of those pictures.
Okay.
As somebody else mentioned about those. So we
Okay.
would like to have some of those pictures, especially with the tricolor. And we would like to publish that on our website, UMA website, if you're Akash.
मैंने पिक्चर भेजी हैं रुंजुन को, रुंजुन ने शायद शेयर भी करी हैं उना के जो दो मेल हैं उना मेंबर्स और ट्राई स्टेट में यहाँ पे, तो अगर नहीं है तो फिर हम भेज सकते हैं,
मुझे भेज दीजिएगा।
रुंजुन ने सबके साथ शेयर किए हैं।
I can send, मैं दोबारा भेज दूंगी आपको। और आकाश एक क्वेश्चन ये था कि ओवर द इयर्स 53 में पहली बार कब हिलरी ने कब सबमिट करा था?
53 or 54,
53, yes.
So तब से लेके अब तक क्या बदला है? I think a lot has changed. तब फर्क challenges थे, अब फर्क challenges हैं. In your view, and you must have done research, so what has changed over the years?
Two things have changed, I think. The mountain hasn't changed. The mountain has remained the same. Log change ho gaya. At that time, people were more adventurous and they were very raw, and they wanted to do it the different way, the hard way. I think Camp 2 say, like I was saying, people were scared of the ice fall. So they were ready to pay $7,500 for a 3-minute flight from Camp 2 to base camp. Now in 53, that was not possible. You have to climb down. Second thing is equipment has changed. So our guide actually has a small museum in his house, and he was showing us the boots, the ice axes, and the clothing that people used in 50s and 60s. So there's a huge difference. People were getting frostbites left and right at that time because not sufficient nahi the clothing at that time. Now technology has changed, so clothing, shoes, your gloves, they're so good that frostbite is very uncommon now, unless you run out of oxygen. Oxygen systems have improved so much, and the whole commercialization of Everest that happened in with these two companies, Adventure Consultants and Altitude Junkies. There's actually a movie called Everest that released many years ago. It was in 3D. So they showed the story, the 96 disaster on Mount Everest, when so many people died, 16, 17 people died. So these two were the companies who started commercializing Mount Everest in the 90s. Before that, it was just, you set up your own climb. You have to carry your own food, everything. But after that, 90s के बाद से ये companies ने commercialize करा. So अभी it's very easy. सारा सामान वो लोग हेलीकॉप्टर से लेके आते हैं कंपनीज और याक्स में और पोर्टर्स से एंड सेटअप कर देते हैं बेस कैंप, सो दे मेक इट वेरी इजी.
पर आकाश अभी भी वेदर तो अनप्रेडिक्टेबल होता ही है, वो कितना एक्यूरेट होते हैं वो लोग प्रेडिक्शंस में वेदर के?
वेदर नॉर्मली तो काफी एक्यूरेट रहता है बिकॉज दे यूज प्रोफेशनल फोरकास्टर्स 5-6, उनको सबको कंपेयर करते हैं और फिर देखते हैं कि व्हाट्स अ विंडो. This year was extremely difficult because of cyclone Yas, and in general weather was very unstable, so we did not have good windows this year.
मैं रुंजुन ने जो सवाल उठाया 1953 जब हिलरी एडमंड हिलरी एंड तेंजिंग नॉर्गे ने करा था और आज 2021, इसके बीच में दो हमारे हीरोज थे. आई जस्ट वांट टू मेंशन देयर नेम्स हियर and probably this will be the tribute. मैंने आकाश को बहुत बोला था कि भाई जाते समय भी करा, उसने कोशिश करी थी उनके साथ पिक्चर लेने की 2 मिनट वहाँ पे उनकी प्रेयर करने के लिए, लेकिन बिकॉज ऑफ द वेदर ऑन 22nd 23rd he couldn't do this. आते समय भी उसने बहुत कोशिश की, एक मिला भी नहीं और आइस इतनी थी. देन यास ने बहुत ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम किया आते समय, he couldn't do it. So the two heroes from Uttarakhand, Dehradun, Major Harsh Bhagwana, who attempted in 71, and his younger brother Major Jai Bhagwana attempted in 84-85. उनका वहाँ पे दोनों का मेमोरियल है, तो वो तो पिक्चर तो हो नहीं पाई in spite of best efforts of Akash while going up and coming down to Lukla. तो at least यहाँ पे मैं मेंशन करना चाहूँगा दोनों का नाम, and this will be a tribute to the two majors, the great heroes of Indian Army, the great heroes of देहरादून उत्तराखंड, और वो रुंझुन के चाचा थे दोनों. थैंक यू.
Absolutely.
थैंक यू मदन भाई. इससे बड़ी ट्रिब्यूट क्या हो सकती है कि आकाश ने सबमिट करा, एंड आकाश Just
Oh,
from
this is fantastic.
this is the
My
biggest
my cousin विकास डिमरी ने वो सेकंड अटेम्प्ट में किया, पहले साल गया, वो जैसे आप बता रहे हैं, वो जो लास्ट he was there for 48 hours, he had to come back and then he did the second time around. So yes, he couldn't do it first time, विकास डिमरी, so he couldn't do it first time around. But then उसने जैसे आपने बताया वहां ऊपर जाके it did sink him, क्योंकि he had these 10 things to do, वो करना था, and then he had to return. So वो जैसे आपने बताया, वो वहां जाके लगता नहीं है, बोलता है एकदम, मैं बाद में आके पिक्चर्स देखता हूँ तो then he's realizing, you know, and then
exactly.
और yeah, so you are right, you know, वहां जाके you had those, you know, बहुत दिमाग में रहता है कि ये 5-6 चीजें करके नीचे उतरना है ना.
तो नेगी जी, ये जो मेमोरियल आपने बताया उनका, ये कहाँ पे है? ये हमारे उत्तराखंडी भाइयों का मेमोरियल जो है,
ये मैंने पूछा था गूगल, मैंने बहुत क्या, आकाश ने भी किया, रुंजन भी किया, ये मेरे ख्याल से आकाश ज्यादा बताएगा, बट आई थिंक व्हेन दे वॉक फ्रॉम लुकला एयरपोर्ट तक, लुकला एयरपोर्ट इज द मोस्ट डेंजरस एयरपोर्ट ऑन दिस प्लेनेट. वहां से वो जब करते हैं 4-5 दिन की हाइक एंड दे रीच बेस कैंप, तो पेरिसे और बेस कैंप के बीच में है कहीं, बट वो ऐसा कहीं लोकेशन है नहीं, मिला नहीं मेरे को गूगल पे
असल में.
लेकिन आकाश ने, उसको पता था कहाँ पे है, तो उसने जाते समय कोशिश की, बहुत ज्यादा बर्फ था और वापस में तो ये यास साइक्लोन का प्रॉब्लम हो गया था.
थूकला करके एक जगह आती है, थूकला, उसमें वहां पर एक मेमोरियल्स हैं.
नहीं, थुकला से अलग है ये फेरीशे से जब हम लोग बेस कैंप की तरफ जा रहे होते हैं, तो अराउंड 1 या 1.5 घंटे बाद आता है मेमोरियल, लेफ्ट एंड राइट दोनों साइड. बहुत सारे मेमोरियल्स हैं, चाइनीज, इंडियन, बट जो पर्टिकुलर वन जो मैं सर्च कर रहा था वो मेरे को नहीं मिल पाया, क्योंकि उस समय फ्रेश स्नो हुई थी 2 दिन पहले, तो बहुत ज़्यादा स्नो थी. मैंने वीडियो बनाई है, आई विल शेयर द वीडियो. तो मैं एक एक मेमोरियल पे जाके हाथ से हटा के देख रहा था, मेरे पे ग्लव्स नहीं थे उस समय, मैं हाथ से हटा के देख रहा था नाम क्या नाम है. तो एटलीस्ट वहाँ पे तो 900-1000 मेमोरियल्स हैं, बहुत सारे हैं. सो जितने भी मेरे को देखे, मैं सबके हाथ हटा के देखे, बट अराउंड 45 मिनट स्पेंड करा मैंने वहाँ पे, बट मेरे को जो चाहिए था वो वाला नहीं मिला. आते हुए भी वहाँ पे बारिश हो रही थी, सो आई ट्राइड आधा सेक्शन सर्च करने का, बट आते हुए भी मेरे को नहीं मिल पाया.
So Akash, I have a question for you, because I see you have not really inspired the youngers. I see that our oldies are getting more inspired here, especially these two who would want to climb now. My question is, आपने mental strength के बारे में बताया था. Can you throw a little light on the physical, getting ready? How did you physically get ready for it? Like, did you follow a gym routine, or were you running, or like how were you preparing for it, and how much time does it take?
Yeah, I think it depends on your base level of fitness. I think my base level of fitness is slightly higher because we play tennis a lot. So cardiovascular health, or it's all strong, I think. So for me, 2 months of training for your legs, I was doing powerlifting with a personal trainer. So just 2 months of that, and then every day or every second day using the mask, doing a lot of biking, maybe 1.5 hours of biking every couple of days. I think that was enough for me because I felt okay on the mountain. But some people may have different things, like carrying a backpack may not be used to it, so they'll need to do something for the upper body as well. Core strength is extremely important, because you have to bend down with the heavy backpack to unclip your safety and then clip into the next one. So you have to do that at least 100 times every day. So uske liye you need strength. Usually people who are runners have very good cardio system. So they should work on their upper body strength and maybe the quads. Other than that, I think it all depends on who you're talking to, but usually quads and upper body strength and cardio. These 3 things are very important, because you could have very strong legs, but if your cardio system is getting tired or overworked after 2 minutes, then you're done. Or you could have the opposite. You could have a very good cardio system. You don't get out of breath, but your legs are very tired. So there needs to be a balance between the two.
So you do find specific trainers here in the US that train you for Mount Everest?
There are. I did not, because I knew my exact weakness, which was quads. So I worked with a personal trainer. I said, this is my weakness, fix this. You have 2 months. So
Got
she created a plan with the powerlifting. So we were doing a lot of powerlifting and weightlifting and stuff like that for just for the legs. I never did a single exercise for anything else. But people who want to do the overall workout program for mountain climbing, there are programs called Uphill Athlete. These programs, well, they customize the program for you. Uphill Athlete is just a company. Their guide actually was here on Mount Everest. He's a guide, so he will set up time with you. He'll create a plan for you. It's completely online, and based on their experience and knowledge, they'll share exactly what you need to do: cardio, core, or upper body, lower body. They even do your VO2 max and lactate threshold tests. These are some technical tests that you can do to measure your capacity. So you can do a before and after and see how much it changed. The higher the VO2 max, the better. So they can do things like those. But for me, it was very specific. So I did not need any programs like this. I just went to the trainer and said, "This is my problem, and we need to fix this."
Sounds good. Thank you.
Just Smita, to that point, and Shruti, Anil, please, अब हम लोग ही take over कर रहे थे तो यार, please, sorry about that, you guys.
No problem, sir, no problem at all.
हम बुड्ढे लोग, you know the excitement है ना, हम लोग जो ज़्यादा excite हो जाते हैं.
Of course, I'm also getting excited, man. I want to get out there, and myself now, and try to see if I can do the same. But if we have any last minute questions from anyone, then feel free. If not, then Mr. Akash, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations once again on this amazing accomplishment.
Thank you.
That's a round of applause from everyone. So we all, I'm sure, look forward to getting more updates from you on all your other summits that you plan on reaching. Since you mentioned you plan on doing all 7 in the coming future. So please do update us. We're all very much interested, and I'll wish you the best of luck, from here on out.
Thank you.
And congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Negi and Abhilasha too. It's a family accomplishment. The whole, it's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you all.
सवाल आकाश की मम्मी का था, पूछो भैया. एक सवाल था, बड़ा इम्पोर्टेंट सवाल है, किसी ने पूछा नहीं, पूछो.
नहीं आकाश, मेरा सवाल ये था कि तूने अभी बताया कि दिनाली में तो जो तुम्हारा वेस्ट था वो तुम कैरी करते थे और नीचे लेके आते थे. यहाँ पर तुम लोग क्या करते थे?
यहाँ पे हम लोग नहीं लेके आते हैं, बिकॉज यहाँ पे बाथरूम होते हैं और उसमें बहुत बड़ा एक ब्लू वो होता है कंटेनर. तो वो जब फिलअप हो जाता है तो शेरपा लोग कोई कैरी करता होगा, आई डोंट नो, या थ्रो करते हैं, आई डोंट नो, बट वी डोंट वरी
अच्छा,
अबाउट.
हर कैंप में रहता था मतलब वो?
हाँ, हर कैंप में. एक्चुअली साउथ कोल में नहीं होता है कैंप 4 में, क्योंकि वो बहुत ऊपर है. और कैंप 3 में भी नहीं होता है, बिकॉज वो तो बहुत स्टीप है ऐसे. बट फॉर्चुनेटली और अनफॉर्चुनेटली यू डोंट ईट. वहाँ पे खाना नहीं ज़्यादा खाते हैं, नूडल्स होते हैं और पानी होता है, सूप. सो जाने का जरूरत नहीं पड़ती है.
बाई चांस किसी को जाने की जरूरत पड़ी तो
होता है, अरेंजमेंट होता है, वो प्लास्टिक बैग्स होते हैं, बैग.
अच्छा.
या बट इतना कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है.
तो वहाँ बिजनेस मॉडल सुलभ शौचालय खोल देंगे नेक्स्ट टाइम. Okay, I think काफी लेट हो गया है. So I think Anil, thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Smita, for arranging this. Thank you so much. Akash, good luck for visa. Good luck.
और रंजन, इन लोगों का थैंक यू करना चाहता हूं.
Also, yes,
ये सब ऑर्गेनाइज किया, एंड द होल उना कम्युनिटी, वी हैव गॉट ट्रेमेंडस सपोर्ट. मैं आकाश को अपडेट करता रहता था जो इसकी मीडिया में आ रही हैं, नेशनल टेलीविजन चैनल्स और प्रिंट मीडिया में जो भी आता है, मैं शेयर करता रहता हूँ. रंजन को, रमेश पटवाल और भूपी को, भूपी इज नॉट हियर, तो वो लोग शेयर करते रहते थे. और 1-to-1 भी मैं करता हूँ. तो जैसे और आएगा तो वो चैनल्स आर लाइन अप. तो अब इस पे टाइम है वहाँ पे ऑनलाइन इंटरव्यू देने का. तो आई थिंक समथिंग विल वर्क आउट.
Please do.
Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For awesome support.
Back.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. So. All righty. Thank you, everyone, for joining that came. Thank you again to Mr. Akash. Thank you to his family for coming and partaking. We'll definitely keep in touch and expect to hear many great more things from Mr. Akash and his further adventures. Shruti, if you want to close or if you want to add any final statements.
No, that was it. I think mostly everyone left.
Okay. All righty. Everyone,
you.
good night. Mr. Akash, good morning, and we'll be in touch. See you guys soon.
Thank you, Anil, and thank you, Shruti Patwa.
Thank
Very
you.